Happier, healthier, smarter and kinder. 4 things that we all aspire to be. Yet the reality for most is that we will spend our whole lives searching for something that we already hold in our hands today. Happiness. With social media comparisons, digitally enhanced photos and LinkedIn profiles that mention all of our strengths and none of our weaknesses, it's never been harder to hold your hand up and say, I'm lost, I'm stuck, I don't know who I am or where I'm heading. Hi, I'm Ollie.
I'm Daryl.
And this is the HUM4NS Unplugged podcast. And today we are joined by Dan Bartlett. Hi, Dan.
Hey, good
How
to
you
see you
doing?
again. I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. So we've seen the bio, we've seen the LinkedIn profile, 2 times founder, coach, ultra marathon runner. This is the stuff you want us to know about you.
Mm-hmm.
But we've promised that HUM4NS Unplugged is going to be a little bit raw and unfiltered. So who is Dan Bartlett behind the LinkedIn profile?
Wow, nice easy question to start with. I mean, the person, quite a sensitive guy. I like working things quietly in the corners. I have a lot of interests. I like to go deep on things, quite obsessive with like different interests. I'm a bit all or nothing with things. Get very excited, go deep, come back out. So, I mean, that pattern's everywhere through all those different things.
Yeah, good. And who is Dan as a human? Like, what are your interests? What sparks your passion, or what drives your purpose?
Curiosity drives a lot of it, like right from the start, and still now. Curiosity is still something I come back to today, even as an antidote to stress. Actually, very easy to get when you're kind of in like the stressed mind frame. You kind of like narrow down on something. And curiosity is such a great way of like pulling out of that a little bit. It's not trying to like counteract the stress. It's not trying to push it away. It's just like widening the perspective a bit. So that curiosity has always been there, from like reading dinosaur books and playing with computers up until today.
Yeah, good. And one of the things that we talk about in HUM4NS is that you can't separate out the person and what they do. They're inevitably the same thing, and one will always impact the other.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a little bit of a flavor of who you are as a person and a human, and your interests and what drives you. How do you see yourself as a leader? Is it a different persona? Is it similar?
No, I'd say quite similar. I remember when I left one of my companies, and that was a difficult time, and everyone said very nice things, but what most of them said was, like, Dan brings the human side. Like, this was an intense, like, high growth tech company, so everything's very technical day to day. Lots of difficult, complex, multi-layered discussions, but trying to bring that like human side. That was, for me, that was the most important way I could show up for people. And I was always pretty candid with the people I managed, and they respected it. Like, that created the trust. Like, all of it starts in trust. If the people who were on my teams didn't trust me, then there was not really, you kind of fallen at the first hurdle there.
Yeah. And many of our audience will be leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, people managers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business experience, the adventure journey that you've been on?
So I had a lot of, I started out as a software engineer, and then I moved it quite quickly into like leadership roles in a few different startups. And that was basically because I was just terrible at staying in my lane. Like, I love writing code and I love building things, but I love being involved in the product side, the business side. How do we market these things? All of that interested me. So I kind of gravitated towards more of a leadership generalist role. And then that led to being a founder and a co-founder at a couple of companies. The biggest of those was probably Almanac around 2017, I think it was. And Almanac was we were kind of building like a remote operating system, or an operating system for remote teams just before the pandemic. And that was the most intense role. We were able to raise a lot of money, we had a lot of success. And yeah, that was the most intense, but I think the most rewarding as well.
Good. And lots of the leaders that we coach are kind of on this quest for financial gain, but also work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
We know that's been part of your adventure and story as well. So can you tell us a little bit about the business that you led, that grew, investment, but then the reality of that success?
Yeah, I mean, what I did well I wouldn't say anything particularly out of the ordinary. It was mostly like tending to the things around it. So, you know, everyone who's building these has lives around them. They have partners and kids and things that excite them, that spark joy, and the things that drain them. So there's this like constant balancing act in the background. Like, how do I keep myself showing up with the same like energy and excitement? And that's completely different for every person. Like, I've worked with a lot of people who I like look up to and thought, wow, they're amazing at this in like product or leadership. And they all do it completely different ways. I honestly don't see a lot of patterns. I mean, they're all tending to themselves in different ways, but for some people that's their kids, some people it's wine tasting or like playing the trombone, or they have these things that they know they need to like keep some contact with that like fuels them through the rest of it.
Yeah, good. Was that, when you talk about that in terms of yourself, because obviously knowing a little bit about your story in terms of burnout and stuff like that, do you think that contributed by not doing that? Like you said, that all those other people had those different things, trombone playing, this or whatever, and the journey that you went on in terms of like burnout, do you think that is probably laying some of that sort of stuff down and just going all in on your company and the demands that were expected of you?
A little bit, yeah. It's very hard. It's easy to look in from the outside, and see what you should be doing. But then when you're in the midst of it, particularly when it's going really well and everyone's cheering you on, like everyone sees you and like, wow, you like raised this money and the team have doubled, and like, I must be doing something right. And it never slows down. It never, even when you like raise lots of money, it just becomes more and more intense. I don't think that ever stops. So I had my supports. I had running, writing. They definitely got lost. And there were certain things I didn't prioritize, particularly around other people, I think. That a lot of my interests were very insular. Like, I'd run on my own, I'd meditate on my own, I'd write on my own. And that's great. It fueled a part of me, but I became too disconnected from like a community of peers, I guess, and just friends as well. And that's like, that nourishes you in a way that those solo activities I don't think can do.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the the 4 things we talk about is being happier, healthier, smarter and kinder. And I think in that kind of environment and that entrepreneurial environment, I always say that those tend to be the first 4 things that go. You're not invested in you. You're not doing the things that make you happy. You're doing the tasks and you're getting stuff done with the eventual aim that I'll be happier tomorrow. Or happier. So you almost self-rationalize it and have to come up with the excuse that I'll trade this now because I'll be happier in a couple of years or a couple of months or whatever. The other one is health, that you just stop running, going to the gym, snacking, eating on the go. Smarter is the aspect of you're not R&Ding even in yourself. So you're just answering people's questions in the moment, but not planning what tomorrow looks like. And then you're so grumpy, you're not kind. It's just generally, because you got all those things that you're not doing and you're not kind anymore. And I think for me, that's an important thing to remember, that, you know, no matter whether success comes or you're not so successful, is to prioritize those 4 things in your life. And I think for me, that's a tendency where I'm not happier, or I'm doing the trade-off. Is like, well, am I being kind? Because that's a great symptom. If I'm snapping all the time, I know I'm not doing those first 3 things well. So like with yourself, how do you guard yourself against getting swallowed up by your passion, which is the work that you do? How do you protect yourself from falling into that trap, knowing your journey now and you're on the other side?
I mean, noticing the symptoms. You said kindness, like cynicism is kind of the opposite of that, and that's one of the 3 symptoms of burnout. There's like the cynicism or detachment, sometimes it's called, the exhaustion, which is emotional as well as physical. And they're just feeling like you're not doing a good job. So those are things, like, fortunately those aren't as much of a reality as they once were for me. But little things for me, sometimes you just get that sense of like, there's no end to this, and which is true in some aspect. But like when my sense of enough goes out the window and I don't have a sense of like, hey, that was a fulfilling day and I did what I could do, or I'm just in that constant like, oh, if I could just get like 8 more things done in the day, then I know I've already overextended. Beforehand, I would have been like, if I get those 8 things in, then I'm going to save myself. Whereas now I'm like, if I pursue those 8 things now, I'm already on like the downward spiral, if you like.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it from the point of you want to complete certain tasks to say I'm productive, but I think sometimes we're over ambitious with the level of productivity that we've got to deliver. I was talking to someone about a billionaire, and he'd been talking to this billionaire, and he said, well, what's your success? And he said, well, I just do 3 things a day. And if I get that done by 11 o'clock, I'm done. And I was like, wow, that's but surely you would just squeeze in another 7, and he said, well, no, because the next day those 3 things might be harder to achieve. So he's got some headspace and energy, and he said, the fact that I'm running a company, I should be able to go and play golf in the afternoon. And it's a real shift. But then I look at that and I go, well, he's got time to tune into himself and be himself and not lose himself in the process. So I think as you get more experience, you start understanding what it means to lose yourself in the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I said, it's easy to see on the outside. It's very, especially when you're working in like a startup environment, or any kind of intense creative environment, it can get insular quite quickly. Like it has to be. You have to all be kind of single-pointedly focusing on that one thing. And it's not a bad thing, but you start tuning out from the things around you a bit. And it all seems normal because you're all involved in it and you're all like struggling the same thing every day. It's only when you kind of step out and talk to someone else and they're just like, what? They don't understand it, or it doesn't quite, they're raising their eyebrows a little bit.
And you built your business during that generation, didn't you, where almost burnout was a target to aim for, like this mentality of do more, work harder, put in the long hours. It was almost like on social media that was kind of glorified as something that people, especially entrepreneurs and leaders, should aspire to be, do and have. Obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. Can you see elements of how you developed yourself or turned up at work or kind of bought into that lifestyle that you'd encourage other leaders to avoid now?
For me, I didn't have a clear enough sense of like what was enough. Like especially when you're building something exciting, it could be like that could turn into like a lifestyle business, or it could turn into a $1 billion company. So there's just always that like never-ending sense of this could be bigger and better. And I don't think you have to deny that, but you have to separate yourself a little bit. I definitely didn't have that separation. I can focus really intensively on things, and I can do amazing things in short periods. But if I don't pull out of that, I like completely merge with it. And when you merge with it, you just lose all of the signals that would usually be quite obvious, kind of disappear into it. And there has to be like a healthy level of detachment's not quite the right word, but like in a healthy relationship, you're your own people, but you're in a relationship.
And that kind of ability to look inwards and have that self-awareness. We know that it's something that, especially as you're building an organization and you're talking about that detachment and the ability to do it, something that, again, lots of people struggle with. That's the kind of internal view of how we see ourselves. Looking back, was there an external view that you could have taken more information or knowledge from? Were other people, the people around you, friends, family, etc., seeing a different Dan emerging and perhaps giving you that feedback that you might not have been open to at the time because you were so in it?
I think so. People noticed I'd just be more exhausted. I think that'd be the main thing they would notice. But honestly, one of the hard parts is that people are cheering you on a lot of the time, and that's not their fault or anything. They just see the LinkedIn stuff and the team photos and the traveling to New York and Mexico City and the fundraising. And of course they're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, keep at it. You're obviously doing something right. So you kind of get the signal from inside the company, and then everyone else is saying that as well. So in some ways, it's almost like there's not enough of that kind of feedback from the outside. I'm sure I miss plenty of it, but it's so hard. Like, I notice this difference a lot when I coach people between like first time and second time founders. Like when you first get involved in something and there's some momentum and it's exciting, you're just like, this is incredible. Like, I'm going to give all of myself to this, and it pays off. It's very meritocratic, like that whole environment. But inevitably you go too far. Whereas the second time founder, like they've usually done that in some sense, or they've seen other people and they're a little bit more like, okay, it's going well, and I'm still going to keep cool, and I'm going to tend to myself because this is a long game, and this won't be my last project. Like I say that a lot to people, like, this won't be your last project.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, there might be like 10 more things you're doing. Yeah. You have no idea.
It was something that Ollie did to me, like I think it was leading up to the pandemic with Creation, which is the brand agency that I have, and Ollie just said, look, are you a business owner or an entrepreneur? And it got me thinking, like, I'm trying to wring the neck out of one thing for it to be everything. And it's the first time I actually took stock and went, actually, could do some other things, couldn't I? And which has led to obviously humans and stuff like that. And I'm definitely approaching, like, the way we approach humans and the way that approach the software that I'm involved with, the company, is very different to how I started Creation. I've learned so much. I'm building differently. And it's not to say it was completely wrong the way I did it the first time, but you just learn, you just get more experience, and you go, well, I don't want to lose myself in it. And my roles have changed. When I first started it, I wasn't a dad. Do you know what I mean? And now I am. And so it's like, you can build the biggest company in the world, but then your kids hate you. Then you've kind of got your priorities wrong. So, I totally get what you're saying, is that you build differently. A bit of wisdom as you get older. That's why I've got the greys now. It just comes, right? And you look at things differently. And I think that's, like me, I try and pass that on as much as I can. It's like, look, hang on a second. You might be running this company for 3 years, but your role outside of it has changed as well. Yeah. And you need to give time to those things as well if you want to reap a better, more rounded life. And I think that's where whereas younger businesses, you're going to make it, you're going to take the world. Yeah. So
So what would you do now with the knowledge that you have if you went back and started that first business again? What would be the first 3 things that you did on a personal or professional level?
One thing we did at Almanac was a pre-mortem. I'm a big fan of pre-mortems, but essentially kind of a long questionnaire that everyone who's going to be involved fills out on what they're looking for, what their expectations are. And it's just a really powerful way of like surfacing all that right at the beginning and starting it with a little bit more intention. Like if one person wants to build like a publicly traded business and one person wants a lifestyle business, that's like, maybe you should pause and have a conversation about that at the start. Like if one, like just like silly questions like what's like an ideal day for you might be completely different for different people, and you see their priorities and their values come into that. So something like a pre-mortem, I would be trying to talk, knowing how expensive it is to build things now, like I'd be trying to talk to as many people about it as possible beforehand. Like the more you can disprove the things that you believe in at the start. Like this is the reason why we do like user testing and things like that. You want to talk to the people, and you want to, ideally, if you can disprove all your hypotheses on like a piece of paper before you start building things, you're going to save yourself an enormous amount of time and money. So I'd be doing a lot of that. I don't know. I think like most personally as well, I'd spend a lot more time thinking on like what does this mean for me? Like over the next year, 3 years, how my day is going to change, and how am I going to cope when things get tough? Because it's going to happen at some point. Like what will be my signs? I mean, you could even write that down. What would be the signs I'd be looking for? How would I know I've been pushing too far? How would I address that? It's the kind of things that just kind of like keep it top of mind for you.
Yeah, good. And you've talked in there a little bit about the relationships and asking more people questions that help you to uncover the blind spots and so on and so forth. You've also mentioned the word community in there as well. When we think about what it means to be happier in a human's context, what we're actually talking about there is relationships, the people around us that challenge us, support us, encourage us to flourish. What would you say are the key relationships of the people that you need around you in order to succeed in leadership? We know it's an isolated and lonely place. Again, starting new ideas or concepts or businesses, and as a coach now yourself, what do you encourage others to build in terms of those relationships? Who are the key players?
Yeah, I think there has to be, if people can, I think mentors are so valuable for people, especially if they're like new to a particular industry, like having a mentor. ideally it's just a friend you chat. Like I have one in tech. We just have a conversation every like few months. You can like, it's a way of remembering that you're not insane, because sometimes you can like
sense check.
Yeah, and you can talk to someone who's not directly in the business, but they've like been through similar things, and that can be incredibly useful. I mean, working with a coach, obviously, is someone who's may even be completely out of the industry and can give you the time and space to talk these things through without the outside of like the immediate context. I didn't have a coach when I was at those companies, and I think it would have made a huge difference because I didn't have a lot of network to talk to outside of the company. So yeah, I think making sure you have those connections. And I think just a group of people who have no idea what you do is healthy as well. Like doing I experienced burnout a couple of times. The first time, I kind of doubled down on things that were important to me, but they were quite solo, like doing lots of running and meditating. And then the second time, I knew I'd missed something, and I made sure that I had a lot of community things. So I was doing hot yoga with people, I was doing Tai Chi with people, I was going to meetups. And that just did something. It was like night and day, the difference. I was just talking with people, and yeah, some of them had some idea of what I was doing, some of them had no idea, and both of them were equally important.
Yeah, and we know then the kind of growth journey that you've been on in your story, you know, founding businesses, growing it, scaling, getting investment. We see the business success element of that. What was the personal cost for you?
It's a big question. I mean, there are costs that you kind of know ahead of time, and you know, building something new takes a lot of time and energy, and you have to be really clear about that if you're going to go into it. Like the cost for me was a lot more than that, above and beyond it, because I didn't have the perspective at the time to kind of pull back. I was terrible at setting boundaries. So like it took a lot of energy from me, which, you know, impacts all the people around you as well when you're frazzled after an intense day, and then you go and speak to your partner. It shows. It's really obvious. So it took a big toll there, and the boundaries are important, not just for, I think when people think boundaries, they think like ways of managing like people around you, but boundaries are for yourself as well. Like you will trust yourself more if you abide by your boundaries.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like you have a relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And if you respect your own boundaries, you start to, like a deeper trust starts to build. Whereas if you don't respect those boundaries at all, like the way you're going to get yourself to do things is just always going to be like, I need to do it like harder and faster, and I need to get up earlier and like rub banana skins on my face, and I need to do like, it's always like more and intense, and that relationship to yourself transforms. It becomes like something really unpleasant.
It's like the boundaries. I think of my younger self. The boundaries, like they're restrictions. They're just getting in the way.
Yeah.
I want to keep going, and you realise that actually boundaries is a healthy thing to put them in place to protect you. And I remember the first time I was given them, I was like, just saying no without giving the reason. I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful, because you naturally are conditioned to say no because of but you can just say, no, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's the choice that you've made. And it was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. So they just, and then obviously me and my wife are then exercising them to each other and going, well, why are you saying that, you know, and stuff like that. But it's just finding the right feel to it. But for me, I boundaries have been really good for me. It's like, right, I'm not discussing it. We're just not, we've gone now. I'm not going to do anything about it now at, you know, 10:30 at night. So let's not deal with it, and we'll pick it up in the morning. And I think sometimes when you're frazzled, that 10:30 at night, you're going to have a completely different perspective when you wake up in the morning with a fresh head. So yeah, boundaries is really cool.
It's a life-changing thing when you've never done that before.
Yeah.
Like if you've always been overly agreeable or people-pleasing, and I was both of those things, and then you start saying no, like it's very scary at first. You think everything's going to blow up. But then you're like, wow, this is like an enormous change. Like maybe this is how other people are like surviving and thriving. Because they're just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because naturally, if you're naturally, like you talked about, a human in tech, then naturally you want to be accommodating. You don't want to be like binary, yes, no, or whatever. But then at some point you have to look after yourself. And I think that's ultimately what I've learned, is that you've got to pace yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't have everything yesterday, and it's always going to take longer. And there's always going to be going around the mountain that you didn't expect to go around, because that's the nature of startups and building business. So you have to get to that point where the boundaries are protecting you, that you can't build Rome in a day, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important leadership lessons that I've seen people have, this idea that you can't be all things to all people and something to yourself, and sometimes it's okay to prioritize you. And to look and consider what it is that you need and where you can get that from. And I think the word that both of you used there was choice. I see lots of people in situations where they feel like they've got no choice. And I remember coaching this one chap, and he was saying, my family are really important, I want to spend more time with them. And I said, well, who manages your calendar? And he said, well, I do. I said, and who dictates your workload? He says, well, I do. So who's telling you that you need to be at your computer at this time? And he his face dropped and he went, I am. So tell me again whose fault it is that you didn't leave your computer at 5 o'clock to go and spend some time with your kids. And he went, it's mine. Okay, so there's a choice there, right? You're choosing to prioritize the work over family in that situation. And you could kind of see the penny dropping and going, actually, no, I have got a choice, and maybe if I'm more conscious about that choice, maybe I'll make a different one in the future. But it's certainly not an easy thing to do, is it?
Yeah, it's where a coach is incredibly helpful, because they can make that explicit. Like, you don't feel that happening. You don't feel that like siphoning of your energy, or like these like premature conclusions. You don't feel them being made until someone points it out. So that like classic coaching problem, like, how am I complicit in the conditions that I apparently oppose?
And Daryl, earlier you mentioned the golf course, and I've always been really intrigued by this idea of business people out on the golf course. Use all these phrases, they're having a jolly up and they're taking it easy, and it's not really working. When we think about the context of burnout and being healthier, is there a place for getting out of the building, from behind the desk, giving yourself space to think strategically, allowing that well-being to come in on the golf course or anywhere else? Do you see the importance of that now, especially with the journey that you've been on?
Yeah, I mean, when I went through burnout, the thing that helped me, I think more than anything, I was just walking religiously. So like being outside for me was, I can't explain it. I feel emotional whenever I talk about it, but I was just going on like long walks and like staring at rivers and trees. And there was something about the sensory richness of it compared to a screen. And like the noise, it's like a full body, every part of yourself is engaged, but in like a very soothing way. So, I've walked religiously ever since. I get up every morning and go for a walk, and it's like the way I start the day. Otherwise, if I just sit down, I'm just like, doesn't work for me.
It's why I moved to the country, for that reason. Because like when I'm in the city, I mean, like now you can see cars going and noises and this or whatever. It's like the tendency is I've got to always be on. And I think when I moved out, it was the first thing, I was driving from Bristol, because that's where the office was, and then back 25 minutes, and I could wind down. And I think the thing is, I used to live in a space which is like maybe 10 minutes from my place of living, and it drove me nuts because I was like 45 minutes to go what would be 8 minutes. So by the time I get through the door, I'm already wound up. But when I moved out into the country, I'm winding down as I'm driving. And I got in and how was your day? Yeah, it's all right. And I'm not even thought about the journey that it's taking me 20 minutes. I'm just a lot more chilled. And now if there is stuff that's going on, I'm like, you know what? I'm going for a walk. And it's been game changing to be in and around that environment.
I like building something now, like the layers of abstraction that you will be immersed in day to day, like just by using a laptop. Like the amount of the world that is now like virtually mediated it's so engrossing. And it's not bad, like amazing things happen there. I grew up on the internet and I love it. But you have to push roots down outside of it, otherwise you're just going to get like washed away in it way too easily. Whereas when you're out walking most days, it just puts things in perspective. And you said about strategy as well. I think definitely carving out time for reflection. It's just one of those obvious things that like we always do it when we're on like projects. We do like retros and postmortems and stuff, but people rarely do it for like just to check in with themselves, like a weekly review or a quarterly review, or just some way of like pulling out of the normal environment. I think getting out of the normal environment is really important.
Yeah.
And just reviewing things. Like people do that when they write something and then they like print off the draft and like read it in a different room on paper. It's a completely different feel. You need to like move yourself out of the normal environment.
Yeah, and we say that reflection is the single most powerful tool for entrepreneurs and business owners. You know, if you don't know where you've been, how can you get a full appreciation of where you're heading and how you're going to get there? And obviously knowing that you're a bit of a writer in the background as well, and you see that as part of your reflective process. Have you got any specific tools other than writing that you use that you'd encourage others to use to pull out that reflective practice?
Writing is the one that's most central to me, but I think like having some kind of cadence for this, like I do a weekly review. I generally I'm a bit of a prolific note taker, which is both a good and a bad thing sometimes. But like a weekly review, just checking in on like how things went this week. I have terrible memory, so it's useful on that side, but also just to see like how was I feeling this week? Did I have like 5 good days and like one day where I was struggling? Did I have 4 like quite difficult days? It's very rare you pull up to reflect on that. And then I do like quarterly reflections as well, because I'll set goals quarterly.
Yeah.
When I say set goals, I'm not talking about like complicated KPI frameworks or anything. I just write stuff down and print it out and put it on a wall. So I see it every day and then like check in on it. And it's just that process of like, is this a useful, if my goal was way off, why was that? Like, what would I change going forward? Why did I set that in the first place? So again, it's just like carving out that space for reflection. And you have to trust it a bit at first, because it just feels like the opposite of getting something tangible done, like pulling back to reflect. Like no one gets as excited about that.
Yeah, we see that as a barrier quite a lot. You know, people say, I haven't got the time to do that. What would you say to those leaders that are claiming that they haven't got time for reflection in that process?
I mean, kind of what I said before, it's strange that those people would usually have like very rigorous reflection and process in the things they build and the things they do day to day, and they understand the value there. So it's really just translating that to a personal, to the personal domain, and it's something you just have to try for a bit to see the benefit of it. And it's very clear, like it's such an important part of like working on anything for me now, that I feel a little lost without it. So
good.
So you got happier, healthier, smarter and kinder. If you could look at those 4 things, where do you think you are like doing really well at, if you looked at those 4 things?
I would say happier. Like the lifestyle I have at the moment makes me very happy. Writing's very important to me. I have loads of time to write now. I'm doing a mix of coaching people or some consultancy. That makes me very happy. Like I have control of my calendar again. I always had control of my calendar, but now it works a little bit more to the kind of schedule that works best for me. So that's a big one. I think kinda still a growing edge sometimes. Like it's just the first thing that goes for me. Like I can get engrossed in something, and then if I've given too much to it, I'm just a bit ratty. Like I need a lot of time to recharge after like social situations. And it's taken me a very, very long time to learn that.
That's good.
Like I need a lot of time. And if I don't do that, I'm irritable. And it's not with other people, but it will absolutely come out. I'll just be like short, and people pick up on it like, immediately. So that's still a leading edge. That's unfortunately that's still the way I notice it sometimes, and it's good to at least be aware of it. But I would love for it to not like leak in that way.
And is that do you think that's part of the journey, that actually we don't give ourselves enough time to recharge, to understand how our brains, bodies work,
Mm-hmm.
and the environments that give us energy and take energy, and how we best show up in those environments in a work or personal context.
Yeah.
Is that something you think you've got better at over time?
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably the biggest difference in how I work now. I know what works for me. I know I work in like pretty small blocks, quite intense, but short blocks. I take my breaks, and I know what kind of cues I need, and I know what ways of working are good for me. I know what helps me decompress. I know how to structure a day so that I feel like kind of nourished at the end of it. But that's a really hard one. People, again, I think they look for formulas, and it's just wildly different for people. Like what one person needs to do in the morning is completely different to someone else. I love getting up early and starting things early. Some people, that's not.
Yeah, we have loads of conversations with people around a 5 a.m. club, and they're just like, I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. It just does not work for me. And I think that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
That there's all of these tools, techniques, and methods out there, and there's no one rule for everybody. It's almost like, again, you've got to learn to know yourself, to know which of those tools are going to work for you and where you'll get best balance. So that well-being part is quite personal, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot out there as well around multitasking, and you were part of building your business during part of that kind of generation as well, where multitasking was what everybody should aspire to be. The new train of thought is single tasking. This idea that actually you just give your full focus and commitment to one thing rather than many, and actually we can get more efficiency out of ourselves when we do that.
It's more fulfilling as well. Much more fulfilling to like push something ahead and to have like your focus. Like it's an inherently joyful and flow-inducing thing. I don't know anyone who really gets into flow with like juggling 3 things at once.
Yeah. I saw someone this morning, actually. I was watching something, and they was like, right, count 1 to 10. So the person counts 1 to 10. It's right, now give me the first 10 letters of the alphabet. Now do both at the same time. It's like 1A, 2B. You already, that's how you're working. That's why you're not getting to flow. It was a really good illustration for me to show that, we don't stick along with a task long enough to flow, and often when we're distracted, he said it takes 19 minutes to get back to the point that you actually work.
I've seen the research. It's mind-blowing. I think that's a huge part of how I've changed the way I work now as well. It's more important than ever to be saying no to a lot of things, but particularly like notifications, emails, stuff like that. I'm pretty aggressive with it. My phone doesn't make a sound. Like ever. That's like good for me. That doesn't work for everyone. I have like favorites set up. If like my mum calls or my girlfriend calls, it will come through. But I'm pretty aggressive with that stuff, and I set expectations for people, and it's the only way that I can. There's just way too much noise now. Like I'd never get anything done. So like having that digital discipline, I've written a lot about like digital minimalism, which is like an idea that Cal Newport pushed forward, but being really intentional about what you use and why. I think it's just becoming more and more important. Notification fatigue is real, right? I can't stand seeing those little red dots that show up on your phone. I don't have any of those.
I've started now moving my apps from the location they're in to somewhere else, because there's a kind of subconscious or unconscious process where we pick up our phone, open it, click into something, and before you know it, you're doing a good old doom scrolling, and you're not even aware that it's happened. And I was on a train recently, and the person sat next to me was doing exactly that. She'd open up one app, scroll for a little bit, not really look at anything, close that app, close the next one. And I think her thumbs were doing the hard work, because her brain certainly wasn't, because it was just that disconnect. And I think, again, that overwhelm that we sometimes get, we're carrying then around all of these different themes and ideas and not processing any of them. And do you think that contributes to how you see yourself in terms of skill as a leader? You know, we feel sometimes that we should know more than we know, or have more knowledge than we've got. You know, you talk to people that have got libraries full of books, and you say, how many of them have you read? And the answer's very few. Or you get people that quote, from the book, and you go, that's interesting. Like, how often have you put that into practice? And like, I haven't really. So do you think there's an element of that kind of notification fatigue and overwhelm that prevents us from feeling smart in a business and personal context?
Do you mean like does it interrupt, or does it have a big impact on how people work?
Yeah, both. Does it have an impact in how they work, but also in how we see ourselves? I guess if I reframe that slightly, one of the things that we know that many leaders struggle with is inner critic or imposter syndrome. And I think we've got to separate out those two things. I think inner critic is how we think and feel about ourselves and our ability to perform. And I think actually you could argue that leaders or founders, entrepreneurs should probably feel a level of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because the reality is if you're breaking the unknown and growing an organization and you've never done it before, you're always going into an area where you're not an expert because it's new for you. So actually I think we should possibly worry less about imposter syndrome for entrepreneurial leaders and worry more about the impact of inner critic. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in terms of like how it relates to notifications, like it's just there's everyone has a very limited bandwidth, and in that tunnel, if you like, the inner critic is there, your energy is there or lack of it. The argument you had with your partner last night is there, like fatigue in your body might be there. So the more you can create space for that stuff and attune to it as well. So there's kind of like an inner attunement. And you can't have that inner attunement if you're constantly being pulled in like 100 different directions. So like as a leader, when I'm managing people or working with people, I will ask them about that stuff. Like how does that work for you, or how does it not work for you? And like what could you change? Because I think it can make a huge difference. It can make a really big difference for people.
Yeah. And do you think there's a connection between the information that we consume and how we show up?
Yeah.
Do you see elements of that? How have you seen it show up in your world?
I mean, there's like the classic of like doom scrolling or consuming several hours of news a day. And it has a huge impact. Again, you're using a lot of bandwidth. And from a nervous system perspective, that's your nervous system doesn't really realize what's going on. It's just like, oh God, oh my God, something else is happening. And this is all by like 9 a.m. and you've like sunk a coffee. So like, you have adrenaline there, cortisol's starting to like build up as well. So I work with people on that level as well. I do some body work as well. So I'm always trying to get people to be aware of how that is like impacting them. Like what are you putting into your body? Like that has a big impact.
Yeah, and one of the things that we find as well in terms of those notifications, you're focused on something, you're in the right mindset, a notification pops up and it's an employee complaint or a customer complaint or somebody saying something that isn't what you want to hear right now, and that completely derails you and takes you off track. Yeah. And you talked earlier about, has it been a bad day? Has it been a bad week? Or did it just have a bad moment? Yeah. And actually then my psychology and thought process around that moment's created the perception of a bad day or a bad week. Do you have any tools that you use or that you think other leaders should use to manage some of that? I know you kind of said that you turn your notifications off and that's part of that process, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have do not disturb on all the time. It's never not on. So that's like an important tool for me. But what I'd say to people is experiment. Like I came to this through experimenting through like I think Cal Newport calls it like a 30-day digital declutter. So it's like a bit of a, no social, you can decide how intense you want to do it, but just try it for like a short period, and see what happens. Yeah. Like when I did that at the end of it, I was like, I have no reason for needing Facebook anymore. I deleted my account. I deleted several other accounts after that. And I didn't turn do not disturb off afterwards. So like just try it and see, because the difference is really palpable. And it's just, again, it's like coming back and asking like, what do I actually need here? Like the scope of that, the scope creep with notifications is just enormous. The same with the news. Like you should be informed, you should know about things. That's never ending. There's no end to that scope. Like you could be like reading about global events all day, every day, and there'd still be so much you don't know.
I would say it's the quality as well. So I'll give you an example. Like it's my birthday, I don't know, a month ago. And, I quite enjoy birthdays. Sometimes people write happy birthday, I haven't spoken to them for ages or whatever. this year more than any, I noticed the automation one where you got birthday preloaded, happy birthday, and you've got a couple of things, and you're going through like, 200 odd comments, and you're like 70 of them are just someone that's just done that.
Yeah.
And you're going, where's the reward in that? You just, it's that you've not taken time to think of that person, all right, you've just done it. And I mean, we're moving into this realm of where we automate things so much, the actual qualities, there's not a payoff back anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, I've noticed now I've started using Facebook so much less than I used to for that reason. It's just like, it's full of ads, and now even the payoff and interaction is not great either.
Yeah.
And so I spend probably more time on WhatsApp talking to people rather than on the wall. And I think that's probably the shift I've had. It just the payoff isn't there. Like the news, you watch the news for 30 minutes on that side, it says one thing, and then you go to a different channel and it says the opposite. And you're like, well, what's right? The payoff isn't there anymore, I don't think. So it doesn't always demand our attention.
I think the thing I end up asking people a lot is like, how is that working for you? It's one of my favorite questions.
Yeah.
And just the like, oh, okay. I hate it, but I just feel like I need to do it. And then like turning it around, like giving them the autonomy to, like, again, they have choice.
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't have to do this, and it's just like such a simple thing, and then it gets overlooked too easily. But again, little things like that can make a real big difference to people.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned as well, this idea of social media comparisons. When you're building something or leading something, you're constantly looking around, you've got all of these notifications pinging off, and it feels like everybody's doing better at something than you are.
Yeah.
How do you manage some of that now? When you're looking around and seeing, businesses that are growing like the ones that you've had previously, and managing, I guess, some of that guilt as well, of not having that pusher mentality as much anymore.
I don't feel the guilt much anymore. It depends on the content. Like some of it on LinkedIn in particular, there's a whole brand of like, I call it startup porn, where it's just like, it's like you can compulsively consume it, and it's just like these overnight successes, and the founder did this, and it's engrossing. And again, when you get down behind it, it's usually what I'm thinking is, I bet if I sat down with this person and spoke with them, it's not going to be that story.
Yeah, I see the one.
Like there's chaos underneath.
Yeah, I 10x my sales overnight. Yeah, so you made one sale yesterday, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of stuff, I just don't. It doesn't. Yeah, I feel I left social media for quite a while. So I kind of, for me, I cut it a bit, and those hooks just aren't there anymore when I came back, which has really helped me a lot.
So Dan, we're coming to the end now, but obviously you've the experience you've had, the life that you've had, you've got to. It's hard to give one particular lesson, but surely you've got a couple of life hacks that you could give the listener that maybe they've heard before, maybe they've not heard before. So I'll just give you the opportunity now to sort of like conclude today's conversation with a couple of life hacks. Have you got any life hacks from your journey?
I mean, one of the main ones is I think one we already touched on, like boundaries are for yourself. Like that, it's a way of, the primary relationship you have when you're doing these things is with yourself. Like there are people around you and like a network of peers, but you're also making decisions about how you treat yourself every day. And that it doesn't really get talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But the way that you show up for yourself each day, and whether you're like hitting yourself with a stick or whether you're like asking, how are you? And like bringing a bit of self-compassion when things are tough, makes an enormous difference. So, I mean, that's the biggest one that comes to mind. Again, building reflection in, like just try it.
Yeah.
Build the reflection in, and also build ways of saying no and try and automate them if possible, whether that's through like using Do Not Disturb or like leaving social media or a particular website for a certain amount of time. Like experiment with these things. They don't have to be forever. People get really stuck in what they're doing because they think they have to make like one final decision. Like, well, these things are two-way doors. Yeah. Like, you can try it for like a few weeks. No one's going to mind.
Yeah, you can not go on Facebook rather than delete your entire account.
Yeah. Just like experiment with this stuff. Yeah. It's strange. Like experimenting gets a lot of lip service, when people are building things, and particularly in startup communities, but people are still very cagey about experimenting with things like this.
Yeah.
So experiment a lot more and make sure you have the time to reflect, to realize what works and what doesn't work, like for you, not for for other people.
Yeah, I love that. And you think about your experience, growing and scaling multiple businesses, gaining significant investment, becoming a coach, running ultra marathons, and your two pieces of advice really are: be kind to yourself and make sure you're building time to reflect. And I think it's that reflection piece that connects us to what we're trying to achieve and why it's important to us. So one of the reasons that we started Humans, we were seeing all of these founders growing significant businesses, getting that financial reward, and then you'd ask them, how are you? And they'd be like, yeah, I'm not feeling happy, I'm not feeling healthy, I'm not feeling smart, and I don't feel particularly kind to myself or anybody else. And so there's definitely that playoff along the journey of when you're under pressure and you're trying to grow something and you want to be ambitious, how do you blend in the ability to be kind and the time to reflect? And we know it's not an easy thing to do, but it's so important, isn't it, in terms of that overarching success?
Yeah, and speak to other people. My last life hack, as soon as you said that, I had this memory of meeting someone, I think in San Francisco, and he was running a pretty successful company, raised lots of money, and I kind of asked him how he was, and we had a bit of a conversation, and he looked like he was he looked like he was not long for this world. And I'd seen an interview with him a few days ago, and I was just it really shocked me, and it stayed with me. So, that's not really a thing you can go out and seek, but, speak to people. You'll see people at different ends of the spectrum, and you will remember ones who have gone to a place that you don't want to go to, and you will meet people who you're like, wow, how does this person, how is it working for this person? And how can I lean more into something that works for me?
Yeah. So how do you go about finding communities of people that have that mindset? We say sometimes, if you can walk into a room and hold your hand up and say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm a little bit stuck, life and business are tricky, and everybody goes, yeah, me too. You're in the right room, because that's the reality of running a business. Whereas when you walk in and you go, yeah, everything's brilliant, and everyone's like, yeah, me too, you're like, that cannot be true for everybody here, right? Because if it was, we probably wouldn't be in this room, we'd probably be on the golf course. So it's that moment where, if you are acknowledging that leaders are isolated and can be lonely, acknowledging it feels like a journey that you're by yourself and not everybody understands it, how do you find the honesty that's required as a leader? People that are willing to go, do you know what? Yeah, it is tough and it is hard, but we can do something really positive with that. How do you find those people?
Yeah, it's not that easy sometimes. And honestly, I did a terrible job at it for a very long time. So it's still a growing edge for me, finding these communities. Finding Humans was a breath of fresh air, because I was like, oh wow, I'd not really not really walked into a community with that kind of focus before. There's the focus is usually on the success side or the scaling side, and there's lots to learn there from other people, but a bit more of a holistic perspective. Again, for me, it starts with having a mentor or a few mentors who can at least point you in the right direction, because it's a bit overwhelming at first. You don't know, there's so many different communities around, but also just getting out and doing things in person. This stuff, there's something about it being online which makes it 98% more likely to be a real conversation. Whereas as soon as you meet people, that whole facade drops. It doesn't matter how big a talk someone does. You see them 6 foot in front of you, and you're like, okay, I see you. I see the real person. I see the way you wince or your awkwardness. And for me, that's a profoundly wonderful thing. So I'm oh, thank God. He's nervous as well, or he's tired, or
that goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's about being human. And it's and seeing people in real life is you get more of an authentic feel for who they are. Body language is a lot more communicative than just the spoken voice, and you could be as polished as you want in 20 minutes. This conversation could be edited and remove all the ums and all the ers and all the everything, and it would be that was the most spot on podcast, and it's taken the editing team 2 hours to get it to that point. But that's not real, and that's why I love the podcast format. Is that you just have conversations, and you can go in anywhere it needs to go, but it's authentic, you know, and it's not staged, and it's not like an interview. Oh, can you just cut this out?
Yeah.
It's relaxed, and it's education, and for me, that's behind what we do with humans, is to educate people to be more in touch with them as a human.
Yeah.
And if we're all more in touch with who we are, then we're all going to not compete with one another. We're going to complete what we're all trying to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the easiest way to do that is put people in a room together.
Yeah.
Like all these magical things just start happening without any, like a few guiding values can really help, but just put people in the same room.
Yeah, I like what you've said previously, Daryl, around the difference between being in a like-minded room and a like-hearted room.
Yeah.
The difference between how people think versus how they feel. And actually, I think when you go to a group or a room of people that feel the same as you, that connection can be really powerful. And then you can figure out how you think and what contributed to the feeling that we created off the back of it. So I really love that, Dan, this idea that actually in order to meet those people, you've got to get out there. You've got to get from behind your desk or your screen or whatever it is you're doing, and you've got to be prepared to be honest and vulnerable at some level. And I think it's when we share with honesty that actually we get the greatest connections. Such an important part of that leadership journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think we're there, aren't we?
Yeah, so you can go to humans.co.uk to find out more about humans and what we do. We provide a combination of coaching, workshops, inspirational talks, and events. And we meet and bring together incredible people like Dan, who's been really, really kind to share his story with us, but also give you some of those realities into what life is like for humans and the people that run the businesses that we aspire to be. So Dan, thank you very much for being here. How can our audience get in contact with you?
Well, first of all, thank you as well. It's a pleasure. I mean, everything's on my website, which is danbartlett.co.uk. That links out to everything else, so they can go there.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Humans Unplugged. We hope that this conversation's helped you to become happier, healthier, smarter and kinder. And we'd love to continue to support you on your journey. So please make sure you click subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you soon.